The gift of inner success, daily invitations, chapter 8, from head to heart. You know that if you were lost in the forest and you've been running around, the best thing to do would be to stop, to be still, to see where you are, so that you can retrace your steps, retreat to safety, or move forward toward your destination. Once you stop, you can find your bearings and the landmarks. You can see the clearings. You can see the dangerous areas. You can see the undergrowth, and suddenly you become alert, you become alive, you become far more enabled. And this is a very natural process. It is the gift of inner success. It's our own innate abilities which, if we don't interfere with them, that if we're absolutely one with, then we're also absolutely rooted too. But if we're in our head, when challenges happen, when the relationship breaks up, when there are problems at work, when we're fighting with friends, family, loved ones, and where there's an economic downturn, when there are problems in the world, that's when we get lost. The invitation is to be still and to return to the heart, because when you're at heart, we're able to understand. It is when we're at heart that we're able to be, quite literally, be centered. And it's when you're at the heart that you feel centered. Our center of gravity is not our head. When we reside in the head, we become off balance. We sway from one thought, one feeling to another, one mindset to another. When we return to heart, we're able to be at peace with ourselves. We're able to nurture ourselves. We're able to be nourished. We're able to take stock. We're far less ill at ease with the world and with ourselves and with others. And this is the best place and the best chance we have to be at peace personally and professionally, and where we're most able to find a way to move forward. What may be going on for you is there may be all sorts of challenges in your life, and that your heart might be calling to you. It might be telling you, you might need to look at this, you might look to go back within. You might well be thinking, well, I'm not quite sure about this, I'm not sure where to go. There's something that's not quite right in this situation. And this is when your heart is quite actually nudging at you, calling at you through the mind to return to heart, to return to yourself. It's you inviting you back home to yourself. And this is what I describe as becoming who you are. This is all at the root of the gift of inner success. And there's nothing you need to do. It's quite a natural process of just embracing yourself. You may recall earlier in this book, earlier in these talks, earlier in these sessions, I mentioned that the most complex things in life happen within ourselves. They actually happen below our everyday level of consciousness. So right now your heart's beating, your blood is pumping around the body, your blood is being pumped around the body. Now, how does that happen? Unless you work in biology, unless you're a scientist, you probably don't even know the answer. You may have even read a few books, but you don't really know what's going on. But when you're consciously thinking, we get caught up and we think we know everything in the world. So if we just pause there, if you think about it, or if you consider it, if you sit with it, all of these really complex things, we've got nothing to do with. And yet we think we need to have an answer for everything. We want to know what's going on in every aspect of our life, every facet of the world. And yet when we turn our attention back within our own bodies, we don't know anything about it. We don't know how it is that the heart pumps the blood around the body. We don't know anything about the thoughts. We don't really know where they come from. We don't really know that. So right now, your heart's beating, your blood is being pumped around the body. How does it happen? Unless you work in biology or you're a scientist, you probably don't know the answer. You may have read a few books, but you don't really know what's going on. But yet we're consciously thinking, we think we know everything in the world. We think that we know everything about everybody else. In fact, we know very little. So that day when I sat down with a friend and we looked at everything we knew, it was liberating for us because we suddenly realized, thank goodness for that. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I'd assumed that it was the most powerful thing. We poured water out of the cup. We'd become much clearer. We were much more in balance. The seeing was the freeing. It may be that you're trying to hold on to too many things. It might be that you're trying to work out too many things. You might be trying to fix an identity which is flawed in itself. Invariably, the identity we have of ourselves is simply an identity and not the self. Many people spend their whole lifetime wrestling with an identity that's not theirs. That's why I mentioned this bag that we've been rummaging around in. You might recall in one of the previous invitations, I talked about how people come to my talks and they've been wrestling with one aspect or another of their personality. And then I'd get somebody to hand me their bag, a satchel or handbag, and I'd start rummaging around at things and proving that, okay, what's this, what's that? This came from there, this came from somewhere else. Our lives are very much like that. So many people spend their whole lifetime wrestling with that identity that's not theirs, and that's why I mentioned that bag that we've been rummaging around with. But by being still, by being silent, you become grounded, and you find a level of identity beneath the level of identity at which you operate. Beneath that, beneath all the names, beneath all the labels, beneath all the ideas, and it's at the heart of your beingness. What we're going to look at in a moment is how to foster a silent space within yourself in order that you become connected, reconnected, and then you'll become more enabled to blossom, because there you can be far less and experience far less interference, far fewer obstacles. You'll stop seeing life as an obstacle, and from here you'll be best able to tackle the challenges you face. Challenges that you face personally and challenges that you face wherever it is that you live and in your work and so on. So this chapter is a really significant chapter. This is the movement from head to heart, from all the thoughts, from all the projections, from all the assumptions, from all the expectations, to a far more at peace way of being, far more centered, far less heady, far more centered, far more heartful. So I invite you to gently, perhaps close your eyes, take a few deep breaths in and out, and really just think about that, or even better, be with that space of reconnecting at heart. Just this morning, I was working with quite a successful singer who's achieved quite a lot of things and her career is on the rise and on the rise. But I said to her before our very first session, I said, the most important thing for us to do in your case is for us to get you to a more still, centered space. And so we were doing an exercise which was quite literally getting her to quieten her mind and getting her to reconnect with her heart. As she reconnected with her heart, so many of the answers, or in fact the place beyond her questions, re-emerged. She was really far more connected, and ironically, that's where she sings from. So this movement of head to heart is a very liberating process. It's a very freeing process. So you might want to, after this session here, after this invitation, just sit quietly for a few moments in meditation, in contemplation, in quiet reflection, and in connection to yourself. Thank you. Okay.